At the beginning of my sophomore year in college, I was still dating my boyfriend from high school. His name was Pharrell Williams. In high school, I fell in love with his music and with his face. And as my first act of devotion to Pharrell, when I was in high school, I made a fan page for him on GeoCities. How old I am, and I didn't know how to make things on the internet. So I just made the background color of the entire page bright orange because I thought that's a universally attractive color. And then the rest of the page was just stolen photographs from other websites. I didn't really understand this until a while later, that website kind of represented the only way that I knew how to express attraction to another person. Didn't understand it until a couple of years later. You just sort of follow that person who doesn't know that you exist around on the internet and just collect whatever attractive photos that you find, or later you set a later date. Okay, so in my sophomore year of college, I was not actually dating Pharrell. And in my sophomore year of college, I was not actually a sophomore. I was a second-year student because in my first year, I failed a couple of classes. And so I hadn't earned enough credits in order to be an official sophomore. My second year of college wasn't really going too much better than my first. I was 18, I was living in Manhattan. I am not someone who should ever live in Manhattan, but I didn't know that at the time. I was sharing an apartment with 5 other women, and they were fine as roommates, but I couldn't really call them friends because I didn't really have very many friends at the time. But I did share a bedroom with Krista, who was the exact opposite of me in pretty much every way. She was outgoing and mature, and she was a real sophomore. She did, really fancy things like cook herself meals from the fresh food that she bought from the grocery store. Whereas I was living off of bagels and cans of chickpeas. She was always having some sort of adventure, like working on a movie set, or hanging out with a rock band, or socializing with people who were in their late 20s. And I was usually indoors, usually eating beans, usually on the internet, trying to socialize with people on Pharrell-related message boards. I was having a hard time. When I was, bumming around on the internet, that was pretty much the only time that I could concentrate. When it was time to study, when it was time to write, that's when my brain decided that it didn't want to work anymore. And when my brain stopped working, I would step away from the desk and I would take long walks down Broadway. And that meant that I was taking a lot of walks. And while I wasn't learning as much as I should have been in class, I was learning some very helpful things from the streets of Manhattan. The biggest lesson that I was learning was that, whenever a seemingly happy person passed by me, or a happy couple, or a happy group of friends, or a happy line of moms taking up the entirety of the street, or even, small happy preschoolers walking, in single file as they cross the street. All of those happy people had been purposefully put into my line of sight by a very cruel, very merciless God to remind me that I was not happy, that I was just completely alone, that I was worthless, that I was unlovable, that I was permanently damaged, that I was permanently trapped in my imagination, and that I would never get out, forever and ever. Amen. Later on that year, I got to meet Pharrell, and in real life. It was at an in-store appearance at an FYE music store in Rockefeller Plaza. he and his band were releasing their sophomore album, and they put on a concert, and I went to the concert, and then afterwards they were doing an autograph signing, and so I got to wait with 200 more of his significant others waiting for an autograph. And when I finally got up to meet him, you know, all I did was, you know, just hold out my hand and say, you know, thanks for the music. And instead of shaking my hand back, he actually stood up and gave me a really big hug. And you know, I couldn't believe it. Like, I was feeling happiness. Wow. And it was amazing to finally have this imagined person be made real. It was just this thing that, you know, I thought about for so long, just was a real thing finally. And I wanted more real things. I wanted more real life. I wanted more real people. And so, you know, that day when I left the store, you know, even though I had just met, you know, my most favorite person, you know, the person I had pined for so long, I knew that it was probably time for me to move on from Pharrell.